Chapter 831. Dustin made a quick decision. Get in the car now. Get Ms. Harmon out of here safely. What about you? Natasha frowned. These people can't hurt me. You leave first. I'll be right behind you, Dustin urged. As he spoke, he shot silver needles into the forest and killed the snipers in hiding one after another. But there were too many enemies surrounding them. The gunshots still hadn't stopped. He couldn't hold them back. Be careful. Natasha nodded. Without wasting another breath, she got into the car. She knew that if she stayed here, she would only distract Dustin. Nelson, take good care of Ms. Harmon, Dustin reminded Nelson seriously over his shoulder. Rest assured, Sir Rhys. I won't let them harm a single hair on Ms. Harmon's head. Nelson called on a few of his trusted subordinates and shouted, "You guys, get in the car and help me get out of this ambush." Yes. They answered. They all got into the cars and escorted Nelson's car out. Before the enemy could surround them, they sped out of there. Go after them. When they saw someone had fled, the jeeps at the very front immediately turned around and went after them. But a figure suddenly fell from the sky before the moving jeep. Run him over. The commander in the passenger's seat shouted. The driver stepped on the accelerator and headed straight for the figure. HMPH. Dustin took a step forward. He pulled his fist back as if drawing an arrow. Just as the jeep hit him, he threw a punch. Boom. There was a loud noise. Dustin's punch sent the jeep flying dozens of feet away before exploding midair. The killers in the car died on the spot. When it landed, the flaming jeep landed on the two cars behind it. With that, Dustin took out 3 cars. After a short bout of panic, the Kirin gang members also took out the guns and began to retaliate. Both sides fired at each other, leading to a shootout. However, the killers were even unyielding and were more highly trained. Thus, they crushed the Kirin gang. Thankfully, the Kirin gang's losses were not severe without the snipers' precise shots. What? Dustin frowned. He realized these killers were dressed casually, but their movements showed they went through military training. The way they backed up and protected each other, and the way they advanced, were seamless. If this continued, they could eliminate almost hundreds of elite members of the Kirin gang within an hour. They really have a death wish. Dustin narrowed his eyes. His gaze was murderous. Right now, he wasn't going to show mercy anymore. Like a phantom, he dashed into the enemy group and attacked them. Blood splattered the floor, and screams filled the air as Dustin attacked. Stop him. Right then, a few figures ran out from the darkness and encircled Dustin. Unlike regular killers, these individuals gave off a powerful aura. From the sharp gazes, they were all top-notch martial artists. Who are you? Why did you try to ambush us? Dustin asked in a deep voice. You'll be dead soon, so there's no point in asking so much. Kill him. Without another word, they closed in on him. They were all using specially made extremely sharp daggers. They were made to kill. HMPH. Dustin snorted. He began to move his feet, turning into a ghost-like figure that flashed past the killers around him. In the next second, their bodies froze before falling to the ground. They were no longer breathing. Chapter 832. At that moment, several cars with bullet holes and emitting smoke stopped at the entrance of Zephyr Lodge. The door opened, and Natasha and Nelson quickly stepped out. Ms. Harmon, are you okay? Are you hurt? Nelson looked fearful. When they escaped the ambush earlier, bullets were flying everywhere. Nelson didn't know how many bullets hit their car. I'm fine. Go get help for Dustin. Natasha urged. Oh. Right. Nelson immediately came to his senses and shouted, hurry. Gather all the Kirin gang members. We're going to help Sir Rhys. Yes, sir. His subordinates replied. They hurried inside to call the others. A short while later, a group of Kirin gang disciples swarmed toward Mount Shinefield. Ms. Harmon, Sir Rhys is strong, and many members are backing him up. He'll be fine. You should head inside and get some rest. Nelson wiped the sweat from his forehead. Then, he led Natasha into the meeting room. Nelson, just who did your gang leader piss off? First, it was getting framed. Then there was the ambush. Dangers just keep coming. Natasha frowned. Well, I don't know either. Nelson scratched his head. He usually busied himself with his duties. He rarely went around asking questions. Either way, in his eyes, Dustin was invincible. It couldn't go wrong following that man. Nelson. At that moment, Felix and a group of people burst into the meeting room. Felix was covered in blood, and he asked, "Where's Sir Rhys? Is he back yet? Wasn't Sir Rhys with you? Why the fuck are you asking me?" Nelson said with a glare. Fuck. There were just too many enemies. We couldn't hold up against them at all, so our only choice was to flee. However, we ended up getting scattered. I thought Sir Rhys would be back already, Felix said anxiously. Fuck. You're fucking useless. Nelson finally released his pent-up anger. What do we do now? Is Sir Rhys in danger? Felix asked cautiously. Shut your damn mouth. Sir Rhys is usually lucky, so he'll be fine. I already sent all the disciplines over. We'll find Sir Rhys very soon. Nelson said in a low voice. Everyone is gone. Then isn't the Zephyr Lodge an empty nest right now? Felix narrowed his eyes. I can't care about that right now. Sir Rhys' safety is the most important, Nelson said with a frown. You're right. Felix nodded. He took out a knife and stabbed Nelson's abdomen. The blade of the knife sliced through his flesh. Nelson was stunned. Looking at the wound in his stomach and then at Felix's cold face, he almost couldn't react. What the fuck are you doing? What am I doing? I'm trying to kill you. Felix laughed coldly. You're Dustin's most loyal dog. I can't take over the Kirin gang if you don't die. You animal. How dare you betray Sir Rhys? Nelson gritted his teeth. It's every man for himself. An important figure promised me that if I kill Dustin, I'll be the next head of the Kirin gang, Felix said, clenching his fist. Are you fucking worthy? Once Sir Rhys comes back, he'll tear you to pieces. Nelson roared. Hey, I purposely lured him into a trap. Do you think he'll be coming back? Felix chuckled. Coldly. Fuck. I'll kill you. Nelson flew into a rage. He yanked the knife out from his abdomen and thrust it toward Felix. Felix was prepared, though. He immediately put distance between them. He gestured to his men and shouted, once all the men are dead and only the women are left, I'll have my fun with them. Kill them. The charging Tiger Guild disciples took out the blades and surrounded Nelson. Take care of Ms. Harmon. Nelson roared angrily. Then, he led several of his trusted subordinates and went head-to-head with the Charging Tiger Guild. However, the Charging Tiger Guild was more in numbers. Nelson only had a few people on his side. He didn't even stand a chance. After a short while, they were bleeding profusely from their wounds. Chapter 833. Run, Ms. Harmon. Gritting his teeth, Nelson grabbed his sword and cleared a path for Natasha to escape. Natasha immediately ran out of the meeting room. When she turned around, Nelson and his men were already lying in pools of blood. Grab her. Don't let her escape. Felix yelled, knowing that Natasha was Dustin's weakness. He planned to use Natasha as a hostage if Dustin was still alive. After her. As Charging Tiger Guild's disciples charged after her, Nelson sprung up. He was bleeding but pushed past the men and dashed to close the doors. Run, Ms. Harmon. He yelled as he locked the doors. You motherfucker. You're doomed. Felix was pissed. He grabbed one of his subordinates' swords and slashed Nelson multiple times. Despite his injuries, Nelson didn't budge from the door, and his grip never loosened. Just die. Felix was furious and brought the sword down on Nelson non-stop. Even Felix's subordinates frowned at the gruesome sight. After dozens of strikes, Nelson finally went limp and sank to the floor. Blood was everywhere. Open the damn door. Felix ordered and finally yanked open the doors. However, just as he was leaving, a bloody hand grabbed his ankle. Run, Nelson wheezed weakly, his grip on Felix surprisingly strong. Fuck. Kill him. Felix's face twisted in rage. He began another series of attacks on Nelson. Still, Nelson's grip refused to loosen. He's fucking crazy. Felix gritted his teeth. He decided to chop Nelson's hand off and run with it still attached to his leg. He saw a row of cars heading in his direction when he reached the gates. It turned out that the Kirin gang disciples had returned. Sir, things aren't looking too good. We should retreat. One of his men yelled. Damn it. We were so close. It's all that fucker's fault. Felix snapped, looking displeased. He reluctantly left with his men. Soon, the roars of engines could be heard as the cars arrived. When Dustin exited the car, he spotted the trail of blood from the door. A bad feeling arose, and he rushed into the manor. The sight of the meeting room devastated him. Nelson was lying in a pool of blood, his flesh a mangled mess with no clean skin visible. Still, his faint cries could be heard. Run. Hurry. Chapter 834. Nelson. Dustin paled as the situation sank in. He quickly took out his needles and tried to stop the bleeding. But it was impossible, as Nelson had too many wounds. Realizing the severity of the situation, Dustin began channeling his true energy into Nelson, desperate to keep him alive. Finally, Nelson's eyes cracked open tiredly. Why? You're back, Nelson croaked. Is Ms. Harmon all right? She's safe. Dustin forced a smile. That's good. The corner of Nelson's mouth lifted. I kept my promise, sir. I did what you told me to and protected Ms. Harmon. That's right. You did. Dustin nodded frantically. Although he kept channeling his true energy into Nelson, he could still feel Nelson's life slowly slipping away. Sir, I don't think I can hang on anymore. I'd like to ask for a favor. Nelson's breathing became labored. Don't be silly. I'm a miracle doctor. I will save you. Gritting his teeth, Dustin inserted a few needles into Nelson's body. Yet, things didn't seem to be getting better. Sir, please take care of my wife and daughter. I haven't done many good acts in my life. I can only boast about having an amazing wife and daughter. I just can't help but worry about it. Them. Sir, please protect them. Nelson's voice was growing fainter. You can tell them after you recover, so hang on. Sweat beaded on Dustin's forehead as he released all his true energy. Suddenly, he threw up a mouthful of black blood. The septimortis was finally taking effect. Don't waste any more energy, sir. I can't hold on any more. Please, promise me you'll take care of them. Suddenly, Nelson reached out and fisted Dustin's sleeve tightly. The light was beginning to fade from his eyes. I will. I promise I'll treat Haley like she's my own. Dustin nodded gravely. Thank you, sir. Nelson smiled. Shakily, he pulled a doll from his shirt and passed it to Dustin. It's Haley's birthday tomorrow. This is the present I prepared for her. Please pass it to her and tell her that her father was a hero. With that, Nelson's eyes closed shut, and his arm fell to the floor limply as he drew his last breath. Dustin roared and slammed his fist onto the floor, creating a dent. He never imagined that he'd watch his friend die right before his eyes. Despite his strong medical skills, he could do nothing to save Nelson. Dustin hated how useless he was. He couldn't even save his friend. This made his skills seem like nothing but a joke. Nelson. Nelson. A familiar voice cried out at the door. Dustin turned around to see a pregnant woman and a little girl rushing toward him hand in hand. It was Nelson's wife and daughter. Chapter 835. Before going on his mission, Nelson had texted his wife. However, Cecilia became worried when he didn't pick up the phone, so she rushed over with the daughter. The sight of blood at the door only made her even more uneasy. Nelson. Where are you? Cecilia cried out worriedly. All Kirin gang members remained silent, their heads lowered. The entire manor was quiet. Nelson. When Cecilia finally arrived at the meeting room, she was stunned. Was that bloody corpse on the floor her husband? She stumbled forward in disbelief. Reality sank in when she saw the man's face, and she threw herself over the body and began to weep. Wake up, Nelson. Wake up. Please open your eyes. Oh. Why did this happen? Tears streamed down Cecilia's face. Haley was crying as well. She ran over to Nelson and kept pushing his body. Daddy, wake up. Weren't we going to celebrate my birthday? You promised me you would bring me to the theme park. Wake up. Why you broke your promise? Bad daddy. I don't like you anymore. Haley sobbed. What's wrong, Daddy? Did I make you angry? I promise to be a good girl from now on, so please wake up. Dustin teared up as he watched Cecilia and Haley bawl their eyes out, his chest aching for them. Full of remorse, he went onto his knees before them. I'm sorry, Cecilia, I couldn't keep him safe. You're a bad man. Haley ran up to him and began pounding on his chest with her little fists. You promised you would take good care of Daddy. You lied to me. I hate you. Give the transformer back to me. I don't like you anymore. I'm not going to let you be Mr. Strong anymore. You're a bad man. Haley wailed inconsolably. I'm so sorry, Haley. It's my fault. I wasn't able to protect your daddy. It's all my fault. Dustin gathered Haley into his arms as tears flowed down his cheeks. He had no idea how to explain things or console her, so he could only apologize. That day, the manor fell into a sorrowful silence. After some time, Cecilia and Haley were worn out from all the crying. Then Dustin knocked them out by stabbing them behind the necks with his needles. Please look after her. Dustin lifted Haley and placed the little girl into Natasha's arms. I will. Natasha nodded. Her eyes were bloodshot and brimmed with tears. She owed Nelson her life. So, from now on, she'd treat Haley like her own. Who did this? Dustin slowly raised his head, his expression oddly calm. However, he couldn't mask the murderous glint in his eyes. He was like a demon who had finally been woken up. It was Felix. He's leading a rebellion with the Charging Tiger Gang. One of the Kirin gang disciples answered. Felix. Dustin took a deep breath before spitting. Find him. I want to tear him apart. Chapter 836. Felix was lying on the sofa with a cigarette in his mouth in a lavish mansion in Eastville. He had one of his legs propped up on a coffee table with a bloody hand firmly attached to it. Two of his men crouched beside the table as they carefully tried to pry the hand off. Because of how firm Nelson's grip was, his nails had already dug into Felix's skin. Damn it, be careful. Felix hissed with a frown, kicking one of the men to the floor. Give us a second. We're almost done. His subordinate smiled apologetically. Finally, they managed to get Nelson's hand off. What the fuck is wrong with that asshole? He just wouldn't let go. Why did he have to go so far for that bastard? Felix cursed. He had been waiting for his chance since the Kirin gang was established. Although he had finally become a guildmaster and lived a much better life than before, he refused to obey someone else's command. He had always been greedy, so he kept his eyes glued to the leader's position. All he needed now was for Dustin to die. Then, with that person's help, he'd take over the Kirin gang. "Yes, sir. There's news." One of his men rushed over. "What is it? Is Dustin dead yet?" Felix stood up excitedly. "Our ambush failed. He's still alive." His subordinate shook his head, looking grave. "He's still alive." Felix frowned. "We had over 100 men and guns pointed at him, but we couldn't even kill him. What kind of monster is he? What do we do now, sir? I'm sure he'll start seeking revenge soon." The subordinate was worried. "Fuck. This place isn't safe anymore. Let's leave." Realizing how much danger he was in, Felix immediately instructed his men to pack up the things. What's wrong, honey? Why are you so worked up? Just then, a curvaceous woman leisurely came down the stairs. Enough with the questions. Pack your bags. We're going somewhere else to hide, Felix urged. Why should we leave this nice place? I have an appointment at the saloon later. The woman purred. Shut the hell up and do as you're told. Felix roared. Call Chad and tell him to head to the safe house. Oh. Okay. The woman lowered her head and strolled back upstairs. It took half an hour for her to reappear with 2 huge suitcases. What the fuck took you so long? Hurry up. Felix was irritated. What's the rush? I needed to make myself look good. The woman protested. Gosh. You're so annoying. Get into the damn car. Felix snapped. Felix flung his cigarette to the floor, leading several men toward the garage. However, dozens of charging Tiger Guild disciples stopped them when they arrived. Where are you going at this hour, Sir Miller? The leader of the bunch smirked. Why should I tell you? Get out of my way. Felix was annoyed. However, none budged, their intense gazes glued to him. Are you guys defying me? Felix's face darkened when he realized that something was wrong. Sir Rhys told us he'd forgive all our crimes if we took you down. He even promised us a hefty reward. Sorry. The rugged leader took out his sword. How dare you fucking betray me? Felix seethed angrily. Oh. Don't be like that. We learned it from you, the other man pointed out. You assholes. How could you betray Sir Felix when he's treated you so well? One of Felix's loyal men shouted. He's treated us so well. PFFT. The rugged man sneered. We risk our lives for him and end up hospitalized all the time, yet we have to pay the hospital bills with our money. Our brothers who died don't even receive proper settlements. Is that how he treats us? Well, they'd been forced to swallow the dissatisfaction due to Felix's power. But now that the man had lost all of his power, it was time for payback. You guys just want money, don't you? How much is Dustin paying you guys? I'll pay double. Felix roared. Chapter 837. We might want money. But we want your death more. Sir Rhys will forgive us if we take you down. The rugged leader shook his head. Run, sir. We'll take care of them. Felix's loyal subordinates went forward and blocked the charging Tiger Guild disciples. Good job, men. Stand strong. Felix patted one of their shoulders. He grabbed his wife, turned around, and ran. Kill them. The rugged man lifted his sword and charged toward Felix's men. Although Felix's subordinates tried their best, they were no match for the guild disciples and were quickly defeated. After him. The rugged man chased after Felix. Ouch. Just then, Felix's wife tripped and fell. Honey, I sprained my ankle. Carry me on your back. She cried out. You're such a nuisance. Felix was about to help her when he spotted the men approaching them. He retracted his hand and spun around to run. Honey. Honey. The woman exclaimed, but Felix never turned around. There was no way that woman's life was more important than his. Besides, as long as he stayed alive, he'd have countless women afterward. As Felix was about to escape, several black sedans pulled up before him and blocked his path. The doors opened, and a pissed-off Dustin slowly got out. Sir Rhys. Startled, Felix turned around. But the charging Tiger Guild disciples were already blocking the other entrance. He had nowhere to run. Realizing his situation, Felix immediately fell to his knees and begged. I'm sorry, sir. Please don't kill me. I won't ever do it again. He slammed his head into the ground. You didn't even bother keeping Nelson alive. Dustin slowly approached with a cold glare. It wasn't my fault, sir. Someone threatened me, so I had no choice. I'm innocent. Felix kept banging his head against the ground until he bled. Who was it? Dustin asked coldly. Will you let me live if I tell you? Felix gulped and asked tentatively. This seemed like his only chance to stay alive. Yes. Dustin nodded. I promise I won't kill you if you tell me who the mastermind is. You've always kept your word, so I'll believe you, Felix gritted his teeth and admitted. The one. What the fuck took you so long? Hurry up. Felix was irritated. What's the rush? I needed to make myself look good. The woman protested. Gosh. You're so annoying. Get into the damn car. Felix snapped. Felix flung his cigarette to the floor, leading several men toward the garage. However, dozens of charging Tiger Guild disciples stopped them when they arrived. Where are you going at this hour, Sir Miller? The leader of the bunch smirked. Why should I tell you? Get out of my way. Felix was annoyed. However, none budged, their intense gazes glued to him. Are you guys defying me? Felix's face darkened when he realized that something was wrong. Sir Rhys told us he'd forgive all our crimes if we took you down. He even promised us a hefty reward. Sorry. The rugged leader took out his sword. How dare you fucking betray me? Felix seethed angrily. Oh. Don't be like that. We learned it from you, the other man pointed out. You assholes. How could you betray Sir Felix when he's treated you so well? One of Felix's loyal men shouted. He's treated us so well. PFFT. The rugged man sneered. We risk our lives for him and end up hospitalized all the time, yet we have to pay the hospital bills with our money. Our brothers who died don't even receive proper settlements. Is that how he treats us? Well, they'd been forced to swallow the dissatisfaction due to Felix's power. But now that the man had lost all of his power, it was time for payback. You guys just want money, don't you? How much is Dustin paying you guys? I'll pay double. Felix roared. Chapter 838. Inside one of the black sedans, Dustin rested his head against his headrest with his eyes closed. Despite how calm he looked outside, his murderous glint was exposed when he opened his eyes. Suddenly, his phone began to ring. Cornelius was calling him. Sir, as you ordered, we've cut Felix apart and left his head untouched. All right, Dustin answered emotionlessly. Sir, we've captured Felix's wife and son. What should we do about them? Cornelius asked. Kill them. Yes, sir, Cornelius responded. That reminds me. Dustin suddenly changed the topic. Tell someone to look into Gavin Killian's whereabouts. Sir, he's quite a powerful man. Are you sure you want to do that? Cornelius hesitated. I don't care who he is. Anyone who kills my friend deserves to die. Get it done at once. Dustin snapped. Yes, sir. Cornelius instantly responded. The Kirin gang had many disciples, so it was easy for them to collect information. They found out where Gavin was in less than half an hour. Dustin immediately headed toward that location. Everyone should be held responsible for their actions. And since Gavin decided to keep being a nuisance, Dustin had no reason to hold back anymore. At 7 p.m. at Luno's hotel, a lavish birthday banquet was held. As the person whose birthday was being celebrated, Florence proudly accepted the guests' birthday wishes with a wide smile. Now that her daughter was the chairman of Nicholson Corp., Florence's status had also been elevated. The sudden increase of people buttering up to her only boosted her conceited ego. Happy birthday, Aunt Florence. Here's your birthday present. Julie handed Florence a beautiful box. Florence opened the box to see a gorgeous gold bracelet worth over $100,000. Florence, I have nothing to give you, so I thought I'd pass Mom's ring to you as a keepsake. Victoria pulled out a gold ring and helped Florence put it on. Thank you for the thoughtful gifts. Florence smiled. She put the presents away carefully and glanced at Dahlia, only to realize that her daughter seemed distracted. Dahlia kept glancing at the door, as though she was waiting for someone. What are you looking at, Dahlia? Florence was puzzled. What else? Mr. Killian, I bet. Julie teased. Of course not. Don't be silly. Dahlia glared at her cousin. She was waiting for Dustin. She has been feeling uneasy since she returned from the hospital. She worried she'd spoken too harshly the other day and Dustin wouldn't show up today. Would this be the end of their relationship? Dahlia, Mr. Kirin is quite the catch, and he likes you too. You better not let this chance slip by. Florence hinted with a smile. Gavin was a powerful individual from a wealthy family, making him the perfect son-in-law. Mom, I'm grateful to Mr. Kirin for saving my life, and I see him as a friend. That's it. Stop making assumptions, Dahlia warned them in a firm tone. Chapter 839. Why can't you see how wonderful your life would be if you married Mr. Kirin? You'd have the whole world wrapped around your finger. Florence was exasperated. If I want power, I can get it with my hands. I don't want to get it through marriage. Dahlia shook her head. Dahlia, Florence sighed resignedly. All right. I guess the fruits of her labor will taste sweeter. Victoria intervened, but she was secretly happy. Since Dahlia didn't like Gavin, Julie might have a chance. Look, it's Mr. Kirin, Julie exclaimed. Everyone turned toward the door and saw Gavin entering confidently. Wearing a suit, he was followed by a group of men. The other guests automatically opened a path for them when they walked by. Their intense aura instantly them the center of attention. What brings you here, Mr. Kirin? Florence and several others greeted enthusiastically. It's your birthday, Mrs. Nicholson. It's only natural that I send my wishes. Gavin gestured with a smile, and his assistant immediately stepped forward, holding a present. The box opened, revealing a set of beautiful jewelry. Mrs. Nicholson, this is a piece of royal jewelry that belonged to a princess consort. May it bring you joy and fortune. Gavin passed the present to Florence with a smile. That's lovely. Florence grinned. She never imagined that something that belonged to a princess consort would one day be hers. It meant that she was a princess consort herself. Please take a seat, Mr. Kirin. Florence extended her arm to usher Gavin and the people with him to the head of the table. The banquet hall burst into lively chatter as soon as Gavin was seated. Guests who had come because of Gavin quickly offered their wishes and gifts to Florence. Most of them also happened to be prominent figures, which only made Florence happier. Sir. Gavin was also going to bask in the attention when his aide suddenly leaned closer and reported. Men were killed. Rhys managed to escape, and most of the ambush failed. Gavin frowned. We sent so many men after him, yet none of them could get rid of a loser like him. He's the champion of the Knighthood Society tournament. He also has thousands of men, so he's a difficult opponent. Gavin's aide's expression was grim. Where is he now? Gavin narrowed his eyes. He just killed Felix Miller, so he should be coming here. Sir, you should retreat, just to be safe, the aide suggested in a low voice. Gavin's elite guards had been almost annihilated, leaving his defenses weak. Just then, a long-haired man next to Gavin spoke. What's the worry? That punk can't do much with me around anyway. The man was only in his 30s, yet he had a powerful air around him. The murderous aura made it hard for others to approach him. Dustin Rhys is the champion of the Knighthood Society tournament. He's stronger than you think. The aide warned. So what? I can kill him easily, the long-haired man answered confidently, unfazed. Well, with Spike with us, I'm sure nothing will go wrong. Gavin smiled. That guy must have a death wish if he shows up. Just as he finished his sentence, there was a loud bang as the door was kicked open. Chapter 840. The noise made everyone turn to look. A man dressed in mourning attire walked in, surrounded by a murderous air. His expression was so cold it sent shivers up people's spines. Dustin. What's he doing here? Florence frowned. She was sure she didn't invite him, so he'd better not be here for the free food. He must be crazy. How could he wear mourning clothes at a birthday banquet? Ugh. Victoria and Julie were disgusted at Dustin's choice of attire. Speak of the devil. I guess he does have a death wish. Gavin smirked coldly. He initially planned to take care of Dustin a few days later, but Dustin had approached him first. Dustin. Dahlia lit up and rushed over to greet him. She'd been worried that he was too angry at her to show up, so she was happy to see him. It proved that she was important to him. I knew you'd come, Dustin. Dahlia's words faltered when she met Dustin's cold glare. She was instantly rooted to the spot. She had never seen Dustin with such a cold, murderous expression before. Dustin merely glanced at her and walked past her, brushing her shoulder. It was as if they were strangers. Dahlia parted her lips but didn't know what to say. Gavin Killian. Dustin hissed, his glare landing on the head of the table. Are you calling me, kid? Gavin stayed in his seat, but his chin was tilted up tauntingly. Gavin Killian, wrongdoers will be punished. You'll meet your end tonight. Dustin stated icily. How dare you speak to Mr. Killian so rudely? You're asking for trouble. Dustin's words angered many guests. After all, this was a good chance for them to butter up to Gavin, so they couldn't let this chance slip past. Are you crazy, Rhys? Florence snapped. And what on earth are you wearing? Are you here to congratulate me or stir up? We don't welcome you, so piss off. Julie exclaimed. Trouble. Spat. Dustin. Well. It sounds like you're about to hit someone. Ha. You can try hitting me. I won't even move. Florence sneered and walked over. She leaned her face closer to Dustin tauntingly. I'm in a bad mood right now, so you'd better not push me, Dustin warned. And what if I do? Weren't you going to hit someone? Come on, then. I dare you to slap me. Let's see if you even have the guts to do that. Florence placed her hands on her hips arrogantly. Without another word, Dustin sent a resounding slap to Florence's cheek. Instantly, blood began trickling from her nose. How dare you slap me? Florence held her burning cheek in disbelief. For as long as she's known Dustin, no matter how much she taunted him, he had never once hit her. Yet, he had slapped her in front of so many people. Are you out of your mind, Dustin? Why did you slap my mom? Dahlia scowled and rushed over to protect her mother. She never thought Dustin would hit her mother. I'm here for Gavin Killian, and I won't allow anyone to stand in my way, Dustin retorted frigidly. You. Dahlia's blood boiled.